Hey, it's TJ again from Talent Tree Games. I know it's been a while since my first devlog, but still getting into the swing of things as far as my cadence and schedule on this, plus we had the holidays. But here we are. I was going to do a video where I try to catch up on everything that's happened since I started working on the project, because I've been working on the project a lot longer than I've been putting videos together. So I thought I'd put like a kind of summary video together and just kind of quickly run through the things that have already been done on the game so far. So I'm going to put up a list on the screen for a moment and just kind of quickly outline what it is that I'm going to talk about. Number one is the 3 C's. For those of you that aren't in the game industry, we generally talk about 3 C's as the character, controls, camera, as kind of fundamental things that each game has to tackle and usually do a good job of if they want to be a good game. The second thing is UI screens. In general, there's a lot of UI screens and front end work that has already been done so far. The third thing is level design systems, and that's really just kind of the general design systems and implementation systems to make levels function, to kind of couch the gameplay and functionality and move you from space to space. Fourth thing is enemies. Obviously, for a combat game, we need enemies, so some of that development has already happened. Number 5 is story delivery systems. I'll go into some more detail there later. And the 6th thing is just kind of piled a few things together. They're mostly a lot of visual kind of viz dev stuff involving the post-processing, VFX, and lighting, getting familiar with Unity and the way they do things, and trying out a few things to see which things I want to use in the game. To start, the 3 C's, the character. I've been largely working with one of the 4 characters that I plan on having playable for the game, and that character is in various states of visible completion, which for some of you who aren't in the development scene might not understand, or might not even be shown any of this kind of stuff, including in other indie development devlogs, sometimes because people are a little afraid of showing something off that's in progress. There's this kind of ugly truth of game development that I like to tell people that always involves the reality that we are looking at a horribly broken game for something like 90 to 95% of its development. It's really not until the very end of a game's life cycle that it comes together and starts looking like the final product. Anytime you see something a lot more polished a lot sooner than release of a game, you're probably looking at a demo that's been cobbled together and put together with what I call development duct tape to try and make it look pretty and help give people an idea of what it's going to look like in the end. But there's usually a lot of temp work that has gone into making it look like that. So to show you what I'm talking about, I'm going to put some examples on screen where the first thing is the idle, and you'll see that, you know, this looks like to me about an 85 to 90% done range as far as completion goes. I think there's a little more polish to do, but it's also looking a lot like I expect the final to look. And then for the next thing, we've got the walking animation, which is obviously a bit rougher. It doesn't have as much detail in any of the color. And that's on purpose, because I'm not really even happy with the way he walks right now, so I'm not going to go making him look final until I've actually nailed the core motion that I want him to have. And then the next clip here is going to show the attack animations, and these look even rougher, right? They barely even have any color in them. They're just blobby silhouettes, and I've assigned some colors for front and back to help separate, you know, the body parts that are in the front or in the back of the character, help animate and see it for the time being. But I'm not gonna make him any more detailed, and I'm gonna keep him this simple while the gameplay is still a little bit in flux, so that making quick and dirty edits don't involve moving around a lot of final pixels, which would take a lot more work than you really want to spend at this stage. So it's a process I've been using since I was working on Game Boy Advance sprites way back in the early 2000s, and it's served me well as a general rule of thumb throughout all of my career. So, you know, the whole idea is just to sketch things in, work with it, answer as many questions as you can, especially technical questions, and move on to the next stage of completion and do it again. And you just keep doing that until you get to the final, and by the end, you've got something that looks great, works great, and didn't take you a whole lot of time to do it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed seeing a peek behind the scenes to see just how dirty sometimes games look while we're trying to put them together. So the next C is the controls, which also contains a lot of the core combat, which is the core gameplay for this game. I think there's something on the order of around 25 different attack animations that I've done in various stages of completion. Most of them are parts of combo strings. I don't know if I'm going to be using them all. I'm still playing around with some of the core design aspects of how those are actually being used. But they are hooked up and they're operational, so there was a lot of work that went into that. So in addition to creating all those animations, there's obviously the code to make it all work, along with some extra time that I spent really diving into kind of the nitty-gritty of the implementation to ensure that combat is as smooth as I could possibly make it. We've got attacks, but we also have blocks, we have a parry, and we also have an evade. And the evade was pretty cool because it led me to learn a little bit about how to put together kind of a nice kind of shadow trail system to make it look kind of snazzy. I like the way it turned out, and I think once I get the final art in there, it's going to look really, really cool. And maybe I'll do a video that shows a little bit about how I put that together. The last C is the camera. Since this is a 2.5D side scroller, there are some basics that needed to get worked out right away. That included the ability to trigger encounter areas and then lock the camera to that area, so the player has to finish the encounter before they're allowed to move on. But the camera system is now in place to allow that to play out, and then it'll hand off to the follow cam and allow you to move with the players through to the next space and then lock itself down again and do its whole thing onwards and upwards. So pretty standard fare for side-scrolling beat-em-ups, but it's important to obviously get that stuff in right away. While most of the time has been spent on core gameplay, I did sidebar into developing quite a bit of the front end to give me a baseline of functionality so that I can start putting demos and builds out to people as needed. That includes a title screen with some early art direction in it. It has a main menu that's on top of it, as well as the world map screen. More on that in a sec. And the beginnings of an options menu, as well as the functionality that goes into the features that are in that options menu. So that includes screen resolution that works now, windowed modes, audio sliders, etc., etc. I just told you I was working on a world map. I did have a very rough version of functionality put together, and I was using that to make a quick and dirty kind of level select menu. Once again, because I thought it'd be useful to actually have that available so I can hand it off to other people in a build, and they can go and select whatever it is I asked them to select and play. But when I looked at it, I was like, it's pretty rough looking, so I did want to spend some time making it look a little bit more presentable. So I did spend some time recently putting together something that's a lot more closer to final than I had before. If anybody's interested, I might actually put together another video where maybe I dive into the overall process of what it took to get to where it is right now. Because part of it was going into Photoshop and leaning on their smart object system, something I hadn't really done a whole lot of in the past, but I found it pretty useful for putting together quick and easy assets for an image like this and being able to mold them however I need at an individual level and see it propagated across the map. So if anybody happens to watch this and is really interested in seeing something like that, feel free to shout out in the comments, and I'll know to prioritize making a video that kind of goes into at least just some of the basics of how that all came together. Earlier I mentioned enemies and level design systems and spawning in encounters. Well, I had to develop the systems for spawning those enemies. So there's been a bunch of work done to deal with boss fights as well as the wave spawners, along with how those integrate together. So right now I have a rough implementation of a boss fight that can have stages to it, that can spawn in waves and minions along the way. All of that's data driven. I can put together various different combinations of enemy compositions and call upon them however and whenever I want. When the boss battles are done, the game needs to know how to move on to the next level of the world map or whatever it is we want to move on to. So that system was also developed and is in place as well. And then there's the enemies. I've talked about combat, but I haven't talked about the enemies. I've got some work done on 3 core enemy archetypes and a few variations within each of those. But one in particular I decided to start pushing a little bit further ahead on was skeleton, because what good game doesn't have skeletons? My game's gonna have skeletons, so I've taken the skeleton, who looked pretty bad just a couple weeks ago, and I spent time updating him to something that I think is a lot more closer to final. Probably also in kind of that 80 to 90% range of completion as far as I'm concerned. There's still some polish to do when the time comes, but I think he's coming along pretty well. So for now, I'm getting a good beat on what he looks like, how he moves around, how he's going to look when he gets hit reacted, how he's going to attack the player. So he has a couple of attacks right now. He's probably just your basic standard straightforward enemy type. He's, you know, I call him the grunt, which is how sometimes we'll refer to some of our like most basic enemy type in a game. And he will be a fun test dummy to use from here on forward. So then there's the story delivery systems. There are 2 big ones that I would talk about here. They're pretty far in development. One is what I call the banter system, and it's really just a system of dialogue bubbles that, you know, like comic book style, that are linked to your character and spawn using data based on what characters happen to be in the game with you. So there is the ability to actually make a different banter kickoff based on which characters the player or players have decided to play in that particular session. I wanted to use it to display some of this dialogue while you're moving through spaces between battles in those interstitials, so that we can provide some extra insights into the characters or the overall story and how the level is going. And then similar to banter, the banter dialogue boxes, there's a lot of work I did to flesh out how I think I'm going to be handling cutscenes. And by that, I'm not talking about pre-rendered cutscenes. I'm talking about in-game cutscenes where we're taking over, you know, the player and characters in the scene and playing out a small scene to kind of set up whatever is about to come or whatever has just happened, or convey a little bit of exposition. Right now I have 3 examples where there's a level intro, there's a boss intro, and then there's a post-boss / level outro as standard examples of where these cutscenes would take place and what they have to handle. So I've developed a system by which I'm using Unity's timeline and some custom widgets that plug into it that allow me to detect what players are in the scene and then pilot them into their place, let them act out their scene, and then unlock them and, you know, move forward on with whatever gameplay sequence is supposed to be happening next. And then the last big category is the kind of post-processing VFX and lighting segment. And there's been a lot of miscellaneous development that I've been diving into to get myself familiar with all that stuff. So that's like your bloom, your color correction, color balance, color lookup tables, to change how you want the lighting to work or how you want coloration from level to level, or if you want to change things and do things something specific in particular areas of the levels. Learning a lot about the 2D lighting system as well. I've been experimenting with putting light maps on the characters so that the lighting in the scene will actually affect them a little bit more directly, which provides kind of a neat look, especially for enemies that might have their own kind of light casting abilities on them, as well as other environmental effects. So I'm kind of excited to kind of keep pushing on that because the early results are pretty promising. So that's the giant brain dump. That was a lot, and I still left a lot out. But I'm going to leave it there, so hopefully in the next blog, maybe I'll go a little bit more in detail about some of those systems I just mentioned, or maybe I'll start showcasing some of the newer content that's coming in. Or I'll start outlining some of the challenges that I'm dealing with and get some insight, allow you to get some insight into how I'm thinking through those and what I'm tackling as I work through those problems. In the meantime, keep an eye out for some shorts that I'll probably be putting together. I've got another couple that are probably going to go live shortly after this devlog. And just looking to quickly show off some of that content that I'm getting put together. And I'm also getting some practice with my video editing because I haven't really done a whole lot of video editing. I don't know if it's noticeable in these videos yet, but I'm still pretty early on in that part of my career here. So hopefully I'll get better as time goes on and I do more and more of these. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Later.